everyone, it's Miss Sinclair. Yay, my favorite. It's been a while since we've been together. The first time we met, I showed you how to use your iPad cameras. So it was much more of getting comfortable with how to use our iPads, how to focus. Remember, we touch focus, and we also learned how when we touch focus on the main subject, which is what we're photographing, we also are telling the camera, this is what we want you to light for. This is the main subject to make it look pretty. The next time we saw each other was when I visited and you received the photo protocols. It looked like this. It was 2 sheets, and that's what you had to use to take pictures every time you went out to visit your plant or your tree. You took pictures, a close-up of the tag number. That was usually the first photograph. And the reason why we took that one first is so that we knew where your set of photos started, remember? And then remember, the last one was the selfie, and that's how we knew your set of photos ended. We had you take a picture of the whole tree or the whole plant so we could see what it looked like. We also had you do some type of detail so you can get to know a little bit more about your particular tree or plant that you were studying. And we also had you do a creative one, just to have some fun. We saw some really fun ones. Miss Davis enjoyed going through your photos. We learned some of the ways to help make the photos that you take now a little bit more interesting, and not just interesting for you, but interesting for other people to look at. I don't know if you remember, but we went over a few things that you absolutely need to make a photograph. The first one is light, because if we don't have any light, you're not going to have a photograph. So we need light, and we need the right amount of light. You can either have too much light or not enough light. Light is important. Most people think that bright sunlight is the best. I think we talked about that a little bit. Bright sunlight, yeah, okay, but there's a couple reasons why it's not the most ideal. One of them is that it makes really dark shadows, and those shaded areas, those areas that are a little bit darker, go really, really dark, and you can't really see any detail in there. The different kinds of light includes shade, just kind of a overall even light underneath the shade of a tree, the shade of a building, you know, an umbrella, anything. Notice that if you go from full sun into shade, those harsh shadows are gone. The light is much more even. That it's not that really bright area and that really dark area. You just have an even light, which is more appealing, especially for some of the detail photographs you were taking. An overcast day, and what I mean is just a gray day where it's just cloudy all day. The next one is window light. That's my favorite light, especially for portraits, which is a lot of what I do, is pictures of people. And window light is beautiful. It's nice to set somebody next to that window and you'll see it's just really pretty light. Try it sometime. We also have moonlight. If it's actually bright enough outside where the moon is full and you've got a steady hand, you can take a nice picture while you're out and the bright moon is out. And the last one is actually candlelight, which is surprising too. But have you ever seen a picture of somebody blowing out a birthday candle? And it's just really neat light only from the candle? You can do that. Again, you have to be steady, you have to hold it still, but you can do things like that. The next thing you need is focus. What I mean by focus is clear. So your main subject should be nice and clear. Sometimes you'll hear me say that it's sharp, and what that means that it's in focus. In focus, meaning it's nice and sharp, nice and clear. Out of focus means that your main subject is looking soft or kind of blurry. And next we have, of course, you need a subject. An interesting subject is definitely helpful, like me. You want to make sure that when you're photographing even a landscape, that it's kind of obvious for the viewer to know what exactly you want them to look at. When we're photographing something like the plants and trees that you've been photographing, you know, after a couple times you might say, well, there's nothing else more interesting. I suggest to look in closer, get in closer, see if you can find any of those details, which is why we had one of those as the protocol. You want to look in maybe on a tree, there's some moss. I'm sure a bunch of you may have seen some critters crawling around and got pictures of that. We learned about the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds says that you divide your frame into thirds, horizontally and vertically, and then see where those intersecting points are, the ones that are circled, 1, 2, 3, 4, you place your main subject. The idea is that your eye is more comfortable when things aren't directly in the center. And the rule of thirds suggests placing your main subject, whether it's a leaf, a flower, a branch, you place that somewhere around those intersecting points, off the center. And your eye enjoys looking at things like that more because it allows your eye to move around the scene rather than something that's directly in the center of your frame. Your eye just goes there and doesn't really take the time to move around. You can set your iPads to have the rule of thirds grid. Composition is what's inside the frame. What's inside the frame and where things are placed, meaning where they are inside that frame in the composition. You're looking for an interesting composition, something really that you don't normally see or you're not used to seeing. We also learned about perspective, and what that means is how high or low you're standing as the photographer, or how close or far away you are from your main subject. And it makes a difference. You can also hold it vertically. Don't forget that, especially when we took pictures of the whole plant or the whole tree. This was a good time to take your picture vertically. A little side note, a lot of people, when they're taking pictures of a group or even of an individual, they're used to stepping way back and showing the whole person. Go ahead and get in closer. You don't have to show the whole person. The more of their face you can see, the nicer it is. Another thing we talked about is your background and your foreground. You have to pay attention to what's around your main subject, what's behind your main subject, and even what's in the foreground, meaning what's in front of your subject. Now you've taken all those photographs and you need to look through them. So you're going to pick your 3 photos, and then we're going to get together and decide on one photo to use for your chatter picks. And how we're going to do that is to have a critique. Everything we learned for the protocols and to take the pictures, you can also use all of those things when you're looking at your photographs of your trees and plants. And know what you're looking for. You're looking for an interesting subject. You're looking for nice light. You're looking for a more interesting composition with the subject off the center. Sometimes it works, sometimes it looks really nice with your main subject in the center, but you're looking for an interesting composition. You will be looking at these photographs and talking about the positives and maybe the things that didn't work so well with that photograph, and you're going to be making a decision on which one works the best. And when you select your final picture, you'll need to explain why and how you chose that one. Remember, you've learned claim, evidence, and reasoning. Your claim will be which photograph you want to use as your final photograph. Your evidence is what you see in that photograph that you like, and the reasoning will be why you chose that one. You will also be asked about some of the vocabulary words we learned today. I hope you've been able to observe the transitions, the changes that your tree or plant made. I think that about covers everything. I'm excited to see what else we can do together, and I'm excited to see how this goes. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe here and here and here and here. And thanks to my son behind the camera. And that's it. Peace out. Bye.